Hey, Alex here, and today we're taking a step back to the year 2005. I'm in elementary school, and Blockbuster is still in business. On Friday night, you'd catch my fat little ass begging my mom to let me rent the game. And thanks to the Buster in the skies above, RIP, I was able to try out so many games that I would have never been able to afford. I was poor. Except there was one game I was never able to get my hands on as a kid. Predator Concrete Jungle. For some reason, my local Blockbuster had the case, but not the actual game. I know, what the hell. So I would keep checking until the case eventually disappeared and I totally forgot about the game. It wouldn't be until years later that I was able to play it during my freshman year of college. It was an emulation, but I utterly fell in love with it. So you could imagine my surprise when I found out Predator Concrete Jungle came out to a mostly negative reception, which I never understood. So now, in the year of our Lord 2023, I want to give the game another chance, and hopefully this proves those low scores once and for all, showing that Predator Concrete Jungle is indeed a concrete game. But without further ado, let's jump in. There's 11 chapters in the game, so we're going to be tackling them one chapter at a time, because that's the only format I know. We start things off with a prologue set in the 1930s, which immediately piqued my interest. I love seeing predators through time, so I was all for it. You take the role of Scarface, a dark-clad predator who's having a really long night. Now, the name is definitely a bit derogatory, especially when you consider he didn't choose it, but we'll get into that later. Left half blind after some debacle, we scramble to get to our ship. Right off the bat, the controls feel a little stiff and wonky, and take a little getting used to. But just like most games in the mid-2000s, they had a bunch of extra weird controller layouts, so you could really experiment if you wanted to. As for me, well, I stuck to the classic, which felt a little like a Dark Souls, with the locking on and the heavy and light attacks, but that's really where the similarities end. Getting to our ship would usually be a breeze, but our new disability, along with the raging gang war happening simultaneously, make things a little complicated. So we slice and dice some mobs and cops alike until it all catches up to us as we take a fall that ultimately has us beat. What? No! Ooh. Oh! Fuck. And being the sore losers we are, we decide to take the whole city with us. Our murder-suicide doesn't really go as planned when we end up waking up alive and well. As it turns out, our predator god has bigger plans. Exile. Yeah, turns out blowing up a whole city of underdeveloped apes isn't a good look. So we're banished by the elders, who drop us off at a knockoff Tatooine with an extra sun. And some bootleg scenes to go along. But as far as introductions go, this hooks you right in. Especially with the 1930s setting, which not only is it interesting to see, but it's also going to be greatly contrasted by what's to come. Basic combos and controllers. And the best thing is, you can rush right through it in about a minute, but if you want to take your time and get your feel for the game, it gives you a section with endless fodder just for that. Good mission overall. Chapter 2 takes place 100 years later. Yeah, turns out Exile was exactly the type of rest we needed, as we totally dominated the bootleg aliens. We killed them so good, in fact, that our clan members come back to congratulate us. Okay, not really. We actually fucked up so bad during the prologue that not only did we survive the blast, but so did a bunch of our equipment, which is now being peddled in the black market by gangs and mega corporations alike. Specifically, the Borgia Corporation, which is taking lead in manufacturing and distribution. Now, that's obviously a giant no-no in predator culture, so we're pulled out of exile and forced to right our wrong by bringing back the stolen tech and killing a bunch of people along the way. And with no time to lose, we're dropped right into the heart of Neonopolis. This place is the definition of a cyberpunk city. Neon lights flood the dirty, crime-infested streets, completely contrasting the dirty, crime-infested noir streets of the 30s. A lot has changed since we nuked this place a century back. Fortunately, we're not too fazed by history, since we have a job to do. We're in Voodoo Boy territory, a cool but stereotype heavy gang that managed to incorporate our cloaking tech into their arsenal. So we're gonna skin a few of them to send a message. This is officially where your vision and scanner first come into play. You got 3 options, starting with thermal, then you got a bio scanner, and an objective vision, which is able to see cloaked enemies and lets you lock on and grab them, which is exactly what we need. And because of that, this mission is all green. At least for the first half, which has you roaming the city trying to kidnap and filleting 3 of the cloaked voodoo boys. Which, if you're taking your time and exploring, can take about 15 or 20 minutes, which makes for a perfect mission length. Unfortunately, things don't end there, because why would they? The cops get involved and they brought mechs. So you end up spending another 20 minutes beating the shit out of the mechs and slicing up cops. Some real ACAP shit. But seriously, every time I play this, I forget how long this mission actually is. Like, it's a good introduction to the new cyberpunk setting, especially the main city, which I find utterly amazing, except it's a little too long. Sure, you can make it shorter by taking out the squads before they call for backup, but considering the difficulty curve and the jank of the game, well, that's not very likely to happen. That being said, there's also no real checkpoints, so if you die during the second half, well, you pretty much have to do everything again, and that includes re-grabbing upgrades and collectibles, which are often out of the way and a pain to get. They really throw you into deep end on this one, but I appreciate them setting the standard early on. All that chaos eventually leads us to the main Voodoo Boy crib, which, thankfully, is split into its own separate mission, which is the game's way of giving you a checkpoint. As we progress, you'll see a lot more of the chapters being split into 2 or 3 parts as the missions get longer. The Voodoo base serves mostly as a boss room with a very 2000s comic book boss. Not to say that I'm not into it, because I totally am. As far as the first bosses go, I've seen a lot worse. This guy doesn't have too many moves, but like most bosses in this game, he hits like a truck. Still, he's not hard by any means, and teaches you the importance of movement when it comes to boss type enemies. So we finish him off and move on to chapter 3. We start off in a new part of the city, this time controlled by the Dead Man Gang, which is made out of a bunch of junkies so high off Tylenol that they no longer feel pain or anything else for that matter. It wouldn't concern us, except they've started buying Promethean tech weapons, so they're officially on our shit list. These guns are pretty much made out of Predator tech, so that's why we're kinda pissed. Now, my first impressions were that this part of the city is a lot more vertical than the last, which made getting around a little bit harder, but also a lot more engaging. It's also weird that our hunt takes place in broad daylight, but honestly, that's a nice change of pace. Also, we're actually doing some good out there. We're taking junkies off the streets, with violence. We're stopping illegal gun trade, with violence. Hell, we're even stopping muggings, with violence. Sure, our methods might be a little brash, but it's the thought that counts. And our good deeds pay off when we discover an old Predator ship left behind by our captured brethren, which just happens to be right under the Dead Man's hangout. So this chapter was split into 2 missions, which really makes me salty, especially when the previous mission needed to split much more than this one. But regardless, inside the church, we're treated to the first of many gangbang style boss fights as we face off against the Dead Man Entertainment team. It's not too bad, since we're only dealing with 3 little monkeys, with each one taking turns to attack, but let me reassure you, it only gets more ridiculous the further we go. But for now, we enjoy our victory and claim 3 junkie trophies, and a ship. Perfect for keeping said trophies, and of course, traveling around to other missions. Chapter 4, which might be my favorite in the game, takes us outside the city and into a mob compound that's pretty much one big Godfather reference. Things start off tame as we disable the turrets, but quickly get out of hand as a rival gang decides that right now is the best time to raid. And well, Yeah, they're right. We take advantage of their mecha goth girl and carve our way hand in hand into the mansion. And of course, being the simps we are, we let our new goth GF take point, while we retrieve our stolen gear and unceremoniously teach the Dawn a lesson. After killing off the rest of the family, we're treated to a mini boss fight against a bootleg Vito Scaletta, which goes as well for him as you'd expect. And sadly, things don't end there. Predator Code deems the mecha goth girl a worthy prey. Also, we're trying to tie up loose ends. So we put our emotions aside and outright drop that bitch. It's sad, but necessary. I'm sorry. Okay, this was definitely one of my favorite missions in the game. I love the goth girl coming in to save the day, and ultimately us betraying her. But yeah, I guess it makes sense that predators wouldn't be on that incel shit. Top tier mission here. Chapter 5 sadly doesn't follow suit, as we're taken back into the city, now under Matador control. And yeah, they're the Mexican gang, and honestly, I'm all for the representation, even if it's a little out there.
Life for us from now on, hey amigos? Yeah, that's right!
Things fall apart gameplay-wise, because ultimately, it's just a reuse of the first map, done to the tune of a boring tailing mission that just has you rush from point to point, while evading some lame cameras. You do get some nice snippets into their leader, Hongo, who's absurdly funny, and his name is literally Spanish for shrooms, so that's a plus. But aside from that, it's a forgettable mission that doesn't do much as far as gameplay goes. The next mission in the chapter doesn't help, since again, it's just another map reuse like the previous mission, this time taking place in what used to be Dead Man Turf. Well, at least the second mission gives you more opportunities to explore and more people to kill. Gotta keep my ADHD at bay. But yeah, we're pretty much just killing all of Hongo's business, aka the pimps and hoes. And of course, our scare tactics work, sending Hongo running, with us right behind him, straight into the last mission of Chapter 5. Which thankfully makes up for the previous two missions with a new location and a 4-way boss battle against some cyber psycho Russians, which the concept alone is fucking cool, but the bopping soundtrack really seals the deal. Again, the cyber Russians hit hard, but they lack any range, so despite there being 4, it's honestly balanced and it was more fun for it. We beat their shit in and collect ourselves some Russian trophies. Now, our little escapades have officially reached Lucrecia Borgia, the crime boss leader and daughter to Hunter Borgia, who together pretty much run the city through his mega corporation, you guessed it, Bour Industries. And honestly, we kinda have beef with the family, but again, we'll get into that later. So for now, Hongo is the perfect pawn in our long game of Predator Chess, whatever that means. So we carry on the hunt to Chapter 6. Lucrecia has sent Hongo to the black market depot run by the working girls.
You don't look like you can afford my time, honey.
Despite their feral appearances, the working girls are dealing with some heavy Prometheus tech, which immediately is a no from us. Immediately a no. So after taking our cut and crushing some puss, we shut down the security system, gaining us access to the motherlode, a ship's worth of stolen tech. Obviously, we blow it the fuck up, which also shuts down the working girl stealth field, revealing their true, more powerful form.
Holy shit! What did I smoke?
Huh.
Not that it matters to us, because we set our eyes on someone else. Hongo has outgrown his usefulness, so time we hang him up to dry. That's kind of funny, right? We end the first mission by killing off the working girl's leader, hitching a ride into Bour Industries. This was a fun mission with a nice ending to Hongo, but it's a total shame that there wasn't a dedicated boss fight for her. She could have totally been the boss in the next mission. But hey, what do I know? The second mission in Chapter 6 takes us right into Bour Industries Depot 818. We're pretty curious to see what kind of tech they've been stealing, so we force our way in by disabling 4 power couplings, which open up a pit leading directly into the heart of the facility. We take the plunge, and inside we're greeted by a squadron of mech, which we easily smash, but ultimately our goal here is to overload the facility. So we do that by hitting 3 blue thingies and a random tube in the middle, which gets things popping. We make it out just in time to get blown into another 3-way boss fight, and the last mission of Chapter 6. We're back at the depot entrance, and we pretty much have to face off against a sniper, an assault trooper, and a rocketeer that will teach you the meaning of explosives. It's honestly a frustrating mission. The fight itself isn't too hard, it's just getting to them that really makes things painful. Because if you're not getting sniped, you're constantly getting hit by rockets, which always come in pairs. After 3 failed attempts, I was able to collect my cyber trophies. Things don't go our way when we find out the 3 of them were only a test, as we're ambushed by 20 more of those cyber troops and utterly get our ass beat. Just stay down, man, it's not worth it. It only escalates from there when the man himself, Hunter Borgia, makes an appearance. He was seemingly responsible for turning a crumbled city into Neonopolis, and a literal mirror image of his father. Chapter 6 was an interesting transition into bigger things. I definitely enjoyed the Working Girls gang and the last boss fight, even if it pissed me off. From there, we're hit with an intermission lasting 3 missions long. Our new way hunt has us stumble onto Bruno Borgia, the biggest crime lord in the city. This, of course, sets us off like a dog in heat as we set our eyes on Bruno, a prey worthy of our time.
The king of the beasts.
We begin to cut our way towards a museum where Bruno is hiding out and coincidentally having his kid. He's truly a romantic and a man of culture.
I need a hospital!
Everything's gonna be just right.
So we waste no time and infiltrate that bitch. I gotta say, it's always fun to see a natural history museum depicted in a game, so I was all for it. The third and last mission of the flashback has us reach Bruno Borgia, which starts a pretty okay fight against him and his never-ending goons. It's not a hard fight as long as you manage to stay moving and slicing up his back. We manage to pull his skull out of his pocket just in time to taunt his wife.
You think that makes you the boss now?
Which, yeah, it's kind of fucked up, but that was 100 years back, and people change. We cut back to the present in Chapter 7, where we wake up trapped and probed. A nice reversal on the whole alien abduction stereotype. We make sure to pay back the scientist as we make our way out of the facility. This mission was honestly fun. You start the mission injured with only 10 health, which not only makes open combat more difficult, but it also made stealth feel more necessary and rewarding. It was also the first time I was running away from fights, which definitely immersed me. I felt raw. Ironically, we don't get any med packs until the very end of the mission, which is supposed to represent us getting our gear back, but it honestly just felt more like a taunt than anything else. The last mission of Chapter 7 is less good. You're running back to the facility, but unfortunately, you are now faced against multiple squads of super commandos, which wouldn't be a problem, but they're equipped with high-end Promethean tech and are utter bullet sponges. So you're pretty much forced into a dance which has you jumping behind them for an assassination. It's definitely fun taking out the first few squads and feeling like a true monster, but it really gets ridiculous when you realize just how many super commandos they're gonna throw your way. Now, we are meant to have freed our captured clanmates, which help us with the escape, but honestly, I always forget to free them until the very end, when there's only scientists left to kill. But I guess it's the thought that counts.
Run.
It seems that our free roam session at Bour Industries has Lucrecia fearing the worst. So she releases some experimental hybrids to hunt us down. No! My brothers.
Good. Now protect yourself, little one.
Chapter 8 takes us outside the facility as we face off against a corrupted trio of predators while making our way towards Lucrecia. The first one, Swift Knife, isn't as swift, so we take his skull first.
That and up out of here.
Now, getting to the other two took a bit more work. There was a lot of running around and smashing scientists' heads against some terminals, but we eventually reached them both and began our mercy killings. We start off with Longspear, who gets what he fucking deserves. I hate snipers. And move on to Stoneheart. My boy here hits like a fucking truck, you know it. But he is vulnerable to plasma just like everyone else. So we scare him off, but not before getting our shit rocked.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Eventually, he takes a plunge, but we have bigger fish to fry. So we go back for our trophy and shut off the last of the security towers, taking us to the longest, most frustrating mission in the game, which is aptly named 10,000 Ways to Die. Because you will die. A lot. So I'm gonna do my best to summarize an extremely long mission. Lucrecia, feeling out of her depth, throws her Ronin bodyguards at us. Yeah, she happens to have 3 of them. I don't know if I mentioned that, but she does. What ensues is a mini boss rush as we make our way through 3 of the same looking facilities, just like the last mission. This time, clearing out all the enemies and one Ronin bodyguard at each station. The sad thing is, they don't even die after you beat them. They pull a Stoneheart and book it the hell out of there. We do that 3 times, all while dealing with random mechs, explosive mines, and even cops to try to get their licks in. Despite that, we beat them, but it's not done yet. Because we have to face against the 3 Ronins once more, this time all at once. But here's the thing, before we can even do that, we first have to deal with a random super mech that utterly pummels you if you go for the assassination. And only after destroying the mech can we join the gangbang. Now, I was excited to take on my frustrations, but to my immense disappointment, they pull the same shit as before. Bigger plans, I guess. We end a very difficult and long chapter by catching a ride with Lucrecia to Borgia HQ.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Chapter 9 takes us back to the basics with some light infiltration and mech disintegration. The first mission is all mechs, and it's hilariously absurd just how many you throw at us. The first room was just literally 12 of them in a row, and then to finish things off, we have to face off against 3 super mechs right after.
God damn it.
But if I'm honest, I'd rather have this than getting pulled by a Ronin.
You will die with honor.
The next mission has us diving deeper into Borgia HQ, which sees us stepping back in time through a VR simulation room. We don't feel like reminiscing, so we shut that shit off, revealing a foursome with our name on it.
Oh shit, here we go again.
At this point in the game, you're pretty much used to dealing with multiple enemies at a time, so they don't really stand a chance, just like this mission, which is mostly there to explore the 1930s, without flashing back again. Ultimately, this mission was a nothing burger, but it does lead to what I consider to be one of the best boss fights in the game. We enter the VR church, a recreation of the church we fought and killed Bruno Borgia in, where we're once again forced to face our past, both literally and figuratively, because our old pal Stoneheart is also here and he's waiting for his revenge. And my man, yeah, he still hits like a truck, except now he's about 3 times as tanky, and has some new moves, in the form of a ground pound that stops you dead in your tracks. This boss fight is honestly one of the longest ones, which isn't a bad thing. It really becomes a war of attrition that has us use every tool at our disposal to survive the encounter. It comes close at the end, but we're ultimately the better hunter. Now, this was a top tier one-on-one boss fight, which is made even more special when you consider how there's probably only 3 of those in the game. All that green blood triggers our PTSD as we have a little flashback revealing how we got those scars. After taunting Bruno's wife, we get our ass capped. Damn, bitch, you fucking popped him. And our holy predator blood apparently has some healing factors, which not only stretch out their lifespan, but literally cured a sick little brat who would eventually grow up to be Hunter Borgia, the man responsible for the development of the Promethean tech and its distribution. But behind every great man, there's his great mother, or something like that. The predator blood worked so well that Isabel Borgia is actually still alive and has been pretty much running things behind the scene through her half AI, half organic, mind-melting mix thingy. I don't know, I'm not a scientist. But she single-handedly rebuilt Ground Zero into a Neonopolis within 100 years. Talk about a boss woman breaking the glass ceiling. Chapter 10 has us once again face our past as we confront Isabel Borgia, who is looking a little rough around the edges, but being over 100 years will do that to you. We're unable to tie loose ends when she sets her Xenopets loose.
What?
Yeah, she's got a literal Cenomorph hive, so we're kind of fucked. Now, I remember the first time seeing the reveal and being super hyped. I really wasn't expecting them, so it was a welcome surprise. Now, Isabel makes it a point to diss us, calling us weak and prey, which I get it. We did taunt her with her husband's head, so I can see why she'd be a little sour. But she's actually right. I can't begin to explain just how tense the Xenos make you feel as they chase you through the maze-like system of tunnels. You see, the tunnels are purposely made to look similar and disorient you, which is only exacerbated by that never-ending horde of Xenos. The aliens are also relentless and difficult to kill, which honestly fits their whole vibe. But after shutting down 4 reactors, which bring the facility offline, we're finally able to deal a final blow. Except first, we have to make it back. The last mission in Chapter 10 has us backtrack to the tunnels, which are now darker and more Xeno-infested than ever. And I'll be honest, I totally forgot the path back, so I kinda just started running. But luck was on my side, and I accidentally made it back under 2 minutes. Seeing her fate is sealed, she tries to sweet talk us, reminiscing on the past and how our blood made Hunter Borgia into the creep he is today. But with all systems down and no Xenos in sight, we're able to right a 100-year-old wrong. Yeah, the Borgia family really brings out the worst in us. So we become pretty vocal towards the end, as you're about to see. After shutting down Mother, Chapter 11 has us chasing down Lucrecia one last time. And with nothing left to throw at us, she takes things all the way to the top, getting her father, Hunter Borgia, fully involved.
Look at you!
Unfortunately for her, things don't go as planned when Hunter is revealed to have spliced himself up with some predator genes, making himself a real fucking jerk.
I'll see you now, Daddy.
Now, that bitch slap was really something, but the daddy line truly had me rolling. Our kill might have been stolen, but this new abomination will pay the price. So, we began our final fight against a hybrid Hunter Borgia. Well, kinda. This is more of an appetizer than the final fight, because at this point, you're unable to deal any real damage. So, you're really meant to survive until backup arrives. Yeah, turns out the Ronin not dying has an actual payoff.
You always said you'd die to protect me.
We appeal to their honor, which, nice, and get them on our side, which lets us actually deal some damage. Of course, he pulls a Stoneheart and disappears toward the exit, leading to the last mission of the game and Chapter 11. It starts off with a quick parkour chase around the facility, where you can get a few licks in. But the real fun starts on the roof, where we engage on a 4v1 gangbang, finally on the giving side. Yeah, we're pretty tired of taking. It sucks that there's no good way to deal damage without hitting the Ronin in the process, so you'll ultimately end up killing them yourself. Well, I guess they kind of deserved it, since, you know, they would always run. But once you do kill them, you're able to get some good damage without worrying about the crossfire. And despite being decked out in Predator gear, Hunter Borgia doesn't even come close to my man Stoneheart. Yeah, he hits hard, but ultimately, he's not even a real Predator. But once we take out 80% of his health, the seams really start to show, as he begins a mad dash up the Bruno Borgia statue, which, okay, that's a bit much, but I respect the hustle. We give chase one last time, but ultimately corner him at the other hand, putting a gruesome end to the Borgia name and all its transgressions, but not before making sure he knows what's up.
Mighty Bruno Borgia fathered a stunted weakling, but you made him strong. Mighty Bruno Borgia fathered a stunted weakling, but you made him strong.
We're really out here fucking traumatizing people. What the fuck?
We grab our trophy and take one last look at Neonopolis, a city built on Predator tech, and now we're at the top. We give our final goodbyes before getting picked up as a fully fledged clan member. Now, that concludes the story, but not the game, because it's actually quite replayable. There's still a bunch of outfits and trophies to unlock, and time trials to do. Now, I definitely don't see myself doing time trials. I haven't been a fan of time trials since, Spider-Man 2 on the PS2. But it's there for those freaks that like the challenge. The outfits, on the other hand, are totally something I can see myself spending hours on trying to unlock. Yeah, games back then were always filled with extra content like this, which just makes me feel sad when you look at the current state of gaming. Oh, how far we've fallen.
But aside from that, well, that's it.
So, Predator Concrete Jungle is, without a doubt, a solid entry in the Predator franchise, and I don't care what anybody says. Yes, of course it's flawed, like any game, especially games from the 2000s, but when you look at today's releases, where they only focus on multiplayer, this was an actual attempt at a new story. A story which, yes, might be a little campy and over the top with its comic book heavy influences, but when you realize comics are where the Predator does his best work, well, that's when you really begin to appreciate what this is. A Predator comic book turned video game, and I utterly love it. The cyberpunk setting and the stereotype-heavy gangs are ripped right out of a comic book page, and while a little brash and insensitive, I was a bigger fan for it. You're really not meant to take things too seriously, which, honestly, follows suit with Predator content. I mean, the first Predator was literally a satirical take on the 80s action Macho Man, so as far as story goes, it all checks out. Like I said, the game is not without its flaws. In the beginning, the controls are a little wonky, which makes platforming and stealth a little more than a guessing game. Though I did feel myself getting better as the game progressed, I couldn't do much with my newfound skill, because ultimately, your combat is very limited. There's really nothing more than the basics, which boil down to light attack, heavy attack, and a mix of both. The lack of moves really becomes noticeable in the later chapters, which have you face off against multiple enemies, making combat feel a little tedious and repetitive. Which, on that note, they are relentless with the amount of enemies they throw your way. Seriously, those 12 mechs felt pretty egregious. But hey, I can deal with the limited movesets, and I can suspend my disbelief for an over-the-top story. But what I can't deal with is shit checkpoints, or even the lack of them, because this game doesn't have any real checkpoints, but instead, it's all split apart. What would be one mission is split into 2 or 3 smaller missions, which not only kill the pacing, but a lot of the time, they aren't used efficiently, which makes things kind of annoying. I'm talking to you, Neonopolis mission, you're too much. But aside from those 2 issues, I have to reiterate. The story of Concrete Jungle successfully captures the essence of the Predator universe and really delivers on a truly immersive experience, especially for 2005. I can tell you right now that if Kid Me had played this back then, there wouldn't have been any mention about the crappy controls or basic gameplay. No, I'd be riding that Predator cock all night. Okay, I probably should rephrase that. But if you're a fan of the franchise or enjoy action stealth titles, the game is definitely worth a playthrough. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. What's your favorite Predator? Let me know down below. Personally, you know it's Scarface followed by Broken Tusk. Leave a like to support the channel and subscribe for more. Stay poochy, and I'll catch you on the next one. You like that? You like the way he dances? You little slut? Subscribe.